Hello and welcome to the Whoniverse, and to part 3 of a series of videos which takes an in-depth look at each incarnation of the Doctor. So in this video I'm going to be looking at the character known as the Third Doctor. This video will feature a look at the character's identity and personality, as well as a brief history or timeline of events, and a look at the friends and foes he's encountered, all to answer the question, who is the Third Doctor? Now the Third Doctor was the third incarnation of the Doctor, first seen at the start of Spearhead from Space on the 3rd of January 1970. He was portrayed by the actor John Pertwee from 1970 to 1974. However, the character has reappeared on notable occasions, such as in 1973 in the Three Doctors special with the first and second incarnations of the Doctor. Then the character reappeared in 1983 in the Five Doctors, and then he appeared in a Children in Need special known as Dimensions in Time, in a two-part story where the Doctor's incarnations kept changing due to the work of the Rani. The Third Doctor has appeared in many stories and was the first Doctor to have their adventures broadcast in colour on television. But what was the Doctor like? The third incarnation is sometimes referred to as the James Bond of Doctors, as despite being a self-proclaimed pacifist, the third incarnation was a man of action, aggressively joining the fray whenever needed with a great level of skill in non-lethal hand-to-hand combat using a method called Venusian Aikido. However, he wasn't a man who would go looking for a fight, nor liked being involved in them. Instead, he was much like his discreet predecessors, with the Third Doctor's keen mind still his primary asset. This Doctor was also an enthusiast when it came to mode of transport, be it cars, helicopters, motorcycles, hovercrafts, or the Whomobile. This incarnation of the Doctor spent the majority of his time on Earth due to being exiled by the Time Lords in his previous incarnation. Due to this Doctor would often try to escape back to the stars. He was often found tinkering with gadgets and attempting to fix his TARDIS in a way to avoid detection. In some respects, this incarnation was rebellious, but he was also a very distinguished gentleman, who found time to give his advice and share his experience. However, when angered or impatient, this incarnation would speak his mind. To his friends, this incarnation was a fine fellow to be around, but to his enemies, the Doctor was a man not to be underestimated, as he could hold his own in a fight, be it mentally or physically. Unlike his previous two incarnations, both of whom kept to the straightforward wardrobe, the Third Doctor was more adventurous in his outfits and dressed like a refined gentleman of the 19th century. He wore frilled shirts, velvet smoking jackets, and infamous cape outfits, as well as bow ties or no tie at all. The Third Doctor travelled through space and time in the same TARDIS all his future incarnations pilot. Only like him, the TARDIS changes and renews itself. This time, though, there wasn't much travelling, more like tinkering, as the TARDIS was essentially off-limits due to the Doctor's exile, with some stories even featuring the console of the TARDIS in unit headquarters, and not in its appropriate console room. Speaking of which, the TARDIS interior was slightly different to his predecessors, though featured a general mimicry of the layout. There was one main change in the new console, and that was a central column, with it now housing 3 green tubes in a triangular arrangement adorned with coloured squares and illuminated by stacked pairs of small fluorescent yellow strip lights. Also, the TARDIS is briefly seen with some very odd-looking roundels, which the Doctor brushes off as a spot of redecorating. A fun fact in the serial known as the Time Monster, it is revealed, or at least confirmed, a number of features about the TARDIS, such as it's telepathic, can communicate, and a TARDIS can materialise inside another TARDIS via the emergency switch. The picture shows the Doctor's TARDIS parked inside the Master's TARDIS control room. The TARDIS exterior looked more weathered than before, and featured some slight alterations to the lamp and wording of the sign, but other than that, the TARDIS seems to remain the same. Now, the Third Doctor met many faces and had many great adventures, so here is a brief timeline of the Third Doctor's adventures. This timeline is just a quick overview of the Third Doctor's era, so not all his travels will be featured to avoid spoiling them for anyone who wants to watch them. However, this timeline does feature the companions' exits and circumstances of those exits. So, after a struggle with the Warlords, the Second Doctor was caught and sentenced by the Time Lords to exile on Earth, where he would protect it but would have a regeneration forced upon him. So, a freshly regenerated Doctor collapsed outside the TARDIS on 20th century Earth near a unit patrol. He was taken to a hospital unconscious, where he suffered numerous moments of consciousness before falling unconscious again. Escaping from the hospital, by acquiring an ornate outfit and commandeering a sporty antique roadster, the Doctor made his way to Unit HQ to see Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. However, he was uneasy about the Brigadier since their last meeting, and eager to reclaim his TARDIS key to escape the planet. However, the Doctor found not only that his knowledge on how to operate the TARDIS had been blocked, but also that the dematerialization codes had been changed. Learning that when he arrived a swarm of power units for a non-physical alien intelligence known as the Nestene Consciousness had been uncovered, and that the Nestene planned to replace key government and public figures with animated humanoids made out of living plastic, also known as autons, the Doctor agreed to work for UNIT for the time being. With the help of Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, the Doctor created a device to stop the Autons. The Brigadier feared that the Nestines would return, and asked for the Doctor's continued assistance. The Doctor agreed to join UNIT as their scientific advisor, using the identity of Dr. John Smith. In exchange for facilities to repair the TARDIS, he also requested similar clothes to the ornate outfit he had acquired during his escape from the hospital, and a car like the sporty antique roadster that he also commandeered during the escape. One of this incarnation's first adventures led him to an underground research centre on Wenley Moor. After being summoned by the Brigadier, the Doctor and Liz met Silurians, a species who had gone into hibernation millions of years earlier, revived by power from the research centre. The Doctor strove for peace between the reptiles and the humans, and gained the trust of the Silurian leader. However, a rebellious and intolerant young Silurian killed his leader and released a deadly virus that threatened to wipe out humanity. The Doctor and Liz found an antidote, but the Silurians retaliated by taking over the research centre. All-out war was prevented, but at the cost of the retreating Silurians were either killed or entombed by the actions of UNIT. After this, the Third Doctor encountered radiation-dependent alien ambassadors. As well as this, the Doctor was transported by a partially repaired TARDIS console into a parallel universe. Liz Shaw, the Doctor's colleague and friend, then resigned from UNIT and was soon replaced by Jo Grant. Soon after, the Doctor learnt of another potential Auton attack and was warned about the renegade Time Lord known as the Master, coming to Earth. The Doctor convinced the Master to stop his alliance with the Nestines, as they could not distinguish between the Master and anyone else in their takeover, and the two worked together to fling the Nestines back into space by changing the polarity. The Doctor then also stranded the Master on Earth after stealing the dematerialization circuit at the Master's TARDIS. The Third Doctor and Jo have many more Earth-based adventures, with the Doctor and the Master's conflict lasting through many of these stories. The Doctor and Jo also encounter a range of aliens, including the Axons. The Time Lords then discover that the Master has stolen their secret file on the Doomsday weapon, and decide to give the Doctor temporary use of his TARDIS so he can go retrieve the weapon for them. In another adventure, the Master attempts to free a demon known as Azal, who is rumoured to hold great power, which, much to the Master's horror, is offered to the Doctor instead. The Doctor declines, arguing that the human race should be allowed to develop at its own pace. Thus, Azal decides to kill him, but Jo then offers to take his place, and unable to comprehend this act of self-sacrifice, the demon self-destructs. The Master is then finally captured by UNIT and taken away to await trial for his crimes against humanity. The Third Doctor then encounters the Daleks, as well as the Ice Warriors of Peladon and Alpha Centauri. The Doctor also battled the Master as he tries to take control of the species known as the Sea Devils, which are basically aquatic Silurians. The Doctor thwarts this plan, but learns that there are more Silurians and Sea Devils across the globe. A superluminal signal was sent to Earth, carrying with it an unusual energy blob that seemed intent on capturing the Doctor. On Gallifrey, the Time Lords broke the first law of time to bring the Second Doctor to help him. When the two proved too different to work together, the Time Lord summoned the First Doctor to lead them, but he was trapped in a time eddy and unable to fully materialise, only communicating with them via the TARDIS scanner. The Doctors then found Omega behind the mysterious disappearances. They prevented him from reinserting himself into the world of matter from his antimatter domain by blowing it up, with a mix of regular matter and antimatter. As a reward for his services, the Doctor's exile was lifted and he returned to the TARDIS with Jo for more adventures in time and space. The Doctor and Jo's first proper TARDIS trip could have worked out better, as they wound up on the SS Bernice, a cargo ship crossing the Indian Ocean. A monster appeared in the sea, events repeated themselves, and a giant hand stole the TARDIS. Investigation revealed that they were inside a miniscope, an alien peep show sporting numerous miniaturized environments. After leaving the miniscope, the Doctor returned the creatures home and destroyed the machine, allowing him to return to normal size. The Third Doctor and Jo then encountered the Fowls and the Daleks on the planet Spiridon. However, these Daleks are invisible. Fortunately, the Doctor and the Fowls stopped these Daleks by stranding them on the planet. Then, after an adventure in which an ambitious computer unleashed giant maggots in whales and the Doctor and Jo saved the day once more with the help of UNIT, Jo reveals that she and a man by the name of Clifford Jones, a scientist, had developed a quick romance in the few days since they had met, and Cliff asked for a hand in marriage. With Jo accepting his proposal, the Doctor, struggling to hide his devastation, offered his blessing and gave Jo the blue crystal he had retrieved from Metibolus Free as a wedding present. Alone, he discreetly and sadly left the celebration as the Brigadier made a toast to the happy couple, driving away in Bessie, the roadster, once more alone. Soon after, a journalist, Sarah Jane Smith, impersonated her Aunt Lavinia Smith to gain access to a UNIT research centre. Top scientists were being held there in protective custody while the Doctor investigated the disappearance of their colleagues. The missing scientist had been kidnapped by a Sontaran commander named Lynx and taken to England in the Middle Ages, where they were working under hypnosis to repair his crashed spaceship. The Doctor helped return the scientist home with Lynx's osmic projector. The Doctor and Sarah Jane soon became good friends as they defended London from dinosaurs which had come back from the past, as well as encountering the Daleks on planet Exelon, where they were attempting to secure the supply of perineum, which is the only antidote to a great space plague. Fortunately, the Daleks are defeated by some explosives and a stowaway human, and the perineum is secured. Now, sometime prior to this regeneration, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, the Third Doctor and Sarah Jane encountered the first, second, and fifth incarnations of the Doctor. The Third Doctor also took part in saving Gallifrey from the Time War around this time. I actually forgot to mention these events in the Who is the Second Doctor video, as the Second Doctor also took part in these events. One more thing is the Third Doctor was present as the Rani tried to take over the universe and the Doctor investigated but kept changing appearance. Now this Doctor's final adventure began as the Doctor took the Brigadier to see a travelling performance show, where he observed Professor Herbert Clegg. He had arranged for the Professor to meet him in Unit HQ, where he looked into the source of Clegg's abilities. Before his experiment could begin, he was presented with a package. Jo had sent her Metibolus crystal back to him after a group of Indian porters cried it would bring them bad luck, and refused any further association with her and Cliff unless she discarded the crystal. However, Clegg looked into it, causing his psychic abilities to increase and show him a frightful image of an extraterrestrial spider, which gave him a fatal heart attack. Reunited with Mike Yates, the Doctor and unit discovered mysterious goings-on at a meditation retreat run by Tibetan monks, were linked to a colony of monstrous spiders on Metibolus 3. Here he ran into his old mentor Kanpo Rinpoche, who suffered an attack from the spiders, causing him to regenerate. The spiders sought the Doctor's crystal and began attacking, possessing, subjugating and killing anyone who stood in their way of them reclaiming the crystal. The Doctor realised that the act of taking it in the first place was a deadly oversight from the beginning, and was told by Kanpo he had no choice but to return the crystal, which would spell his doom. To save his companions, his teacher, and the whole cosmos from them, the Doctor, exposing himself to lethal levels of radiation to destroy the web of the Great One, he allowed the Great One to repossess the crystal, which gave her infinite psychic power. Unaware this would be too much for her to bear, the Great One and the 8 legs linked to her could not handle the limitless power and were destroyed. The Doctor, limped to his TARDIS and escaped Metibolus 3, wounded heavily. The TARDIS finally deposited the dying Doctor back on Earth. He promptly collapsed in his unit lab next to Sarah Jane and Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Looking at Sarah Jane, he tried comforting her, telling her that while there's life, there's... but expired before he could finish his dying words. Campo's psychic projection reappeared before Sarah Jane and the Brigadier and promised the two that the Doctor would be alright, deciding to give the Doctor a little push to help his cells begin a regeneration. He then vanished and told Sarah Jane and the Brigadier to look after him. The Doctor started breathing again and regenerated into his next incarnation. So that was a relatively, well, not so brief history of the Third Doctor. Now you may be wondering what aliens he met and foes he went up against. Well, the Third Doctor met a range of aliens from all parts of space and time, with some of the most notable and memorable being the following: Autons, Nestine, Silurians, the Ambassadors, Promoids, the Master, Axons, Azal the Daemon, Daleks, Ogrons, Ice Warriors, Alpha Centauri, Sea Devils, Chronivores, Omega, Drashigs, Draconians, Fowls, Sontarans, and the 8 legs. Now the Third Doctor only encountered few figures and groups from history, unless you count Unit in the 1970s. Or was it the 80s? The other figures were 1970s to 80s Unit, and dinosaurs. So as you can see, the Third Doctor fought many foes, made many allies, and had many adventures. The Third Doctor was rather different to his previous incarnation. This is the Doctor truly becoming the defender of Earth as he takes on every threat thrown at him. With wit, dashing heroism, this incarnation of the Doctor proved that there was plenty of adventure to have, even if you're stuck on Earth. The next incarnation did set out to go explore the universe once more, and something tells me that video is going to be quite a long one. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the like button and comment below what your favourite Third Doctor moment is, what your favourite story is, or alien is. And if you want to see more videos made by myself, check out the links in the left, and click the subscribe button. Thanks again, and with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.